The year is 1989. We have just seen a rough cut of a little film known as UHF, starring Weird Al Yankovic. Don't worry, we're going to fix it for you. Cue the intro.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mirror Movie Universe podcast. I'm Nate. I'm one half of the hosting team of this shindig of a show, and across the island, across the country from me is my older brother Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hey, everybody, we're talking about Weird Al. Why, you might ask? Well, mostly because if you've been paying attention to our pitches, and I hope that you have, you've noticed that Nate always casts Weird Al no matter what we're doing.
I do.
So we thought that we should actually do one of his actual movies that he's actually in.
Yeah,
That would be fair and all of that.
we grew up loving Weird Al, and it just started as a joke, me putting him somewhere in each of our movie pitch episodes. And to be frank, I wasn't even planning on doing UHF because it's so crazy, but I love it.
Uh-huh.
And I embrace the weird. To celebrate this, I'm wearing my weirdest hat, which is this wool thing. And if you're watching this on video instead of just listening to it in the bathroom at work, but yeah, in order to talk about what we like about UHF, and I love this movie. To be clear, I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
In order to talk about what we like about UHF, we're going to have to talk about what happens in UHF. So UHF opens with a perfect parody of the opening scene of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's this figure in a leather jacket and a hat with a whip. And he's going for this idol, and instead of like this golden idol in this temple, it's an Oscar. And there's a lot of subversion of expectations in a really funny way. Like, instead of disarming a guy with a whip, he disarms a guy with a whip. Like, he like pulls his arm off. The boulder comes after him, and instead of stopping at the temple entrance, it keeps like chasing him around the world after he like runs away. It's very fun, and it turns out to be the daydream of this kind of loser nobody named George, who's played by Weird Al Yankovic. Not a pitch this time. He's actually in there. So he's sort of a loser. He and his buddy are pretty sure buddy's name is Bob or something. They're kind of down on their luck. They can't hold down jobs, and they're kind of unlucky, and all of this kind of stuff. They get fired from a job slinging burgers because George is daydreaming all day. He has big dreams, but he has no idea how to articulate it really. He's not doing so great with his girlfriend Terry, and he could use a break basically. His aunt finds out that his uncle, her husband, has won an old television station on the outskirts of town, a UHF station, which were used to be like, if you think like access cable, that's more or less what it is. It's just the late 80s. And Like public access cable stuff. It's nearly bankrupt. It's really run down. She's like, let's give it to George so that he can, like run it and do something creative. George and Bob, take over the station, and they meet the secretary who wants to be a reporter, played by Fran Drescher, who's great. And They're just like putting on some programming. It's not super successful or whatever. George goes to meet the head of the like big network channel 6 thing, because network television used to be important. And they he like returns a package to him or something, and he turns out to be a really mean guy, and he's like, I'm going to destroy this station. And on the way out of the building, he meets a janitor who's been fired for no reason, named Stanley Spadowski, who his mop is taken away from him. That he got that mop from his father when he was 8 years old. And George invites him to be a janitor at the station. And his girlfriend breaks up with him, and he's all depressed and stuff. And he's like, you can take this kids show that I'm doing. It's like a clubhouse for kids or something like that. And Stanley Spadowski, the janitor, takes over this clubhouse show. And like George, depressed, goes to a local bar like 15 minutes later, right? Goes to a local bar, and everyone there is like, hey, everybody, it's back on TV. And they look up, and everyone is watching Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse for Children. And it's like the most popular thing in town. They go to number one in the ratings, and they start showing a bunch of really, really strange stuff on TV, like Gandhi 2, which is like an action movie sequel to the movie Gandhi with Ben Kingsley from like the 60s or whatever, 80s. I don't know. Conan the librarian instead of Conan the barbarian. And he chops a teenager in half for not returning a book on time. There's like a weird, like a Jerry Springer kind of talk show with a lot of weird stuff going on. So interspersed throughout the rest of the film are these commercials and little segments, little nuggets of the weird stuff that they're showing on their TV station. There's like 50 of them. So I don't even know what to mention here. There's like Raoul's Wild Kingdom, which is like a nature show, but it's just inside a guy's apartment. There's a commercial for like a big box store that only sells
Spatula City,
spatulas. Spatula City,
Spatula
Spatula
City.
City.
Yeah.
Buy 9 spatulas, get the 10th one for just 1 penny. It's absolutely wonderful. Spatula City, we sell spatulas, and that's all. It's just great. So it's loose from that point on. George eventually, gets like the debt under which the station is owned by his uncle gets bought out by the big, Channel 6 guy, and they have to basically do like a PBS style kind of like pledge drive to
Telethon
get
thing, yeah.
telethon thing to sell shares in the station to keep it. And there's like this big effort to do it at the end of the film, but mostly people are just there for the janitor Stanley Spadowski because everybody loves him, and without it it's just a bunch of weird stuff on TV. And he gets kidnapped by the bad station owner. George goes to rescue him in a parody of Rambo 2, not Rambo 1, which is actually a good movie, but Rambo 2, which is ridiculous and deserves parody. And eventually saves him, brings him back, and they get like the last a little bit of money from a homeless man that George gave a penny to earlier in the movie, and that penny turns out to be like priceless, and this homeless man turns out to be super rich and gives them the last of the shares of the station, and they win. The station is theirs and belongs back to the community. George gets back together with his girlfriend, and it ends. UHF is perfectly weird, and I love it to death. But usually on this show, we talk about what you like first. And, what do you like about UHF? There's lots to like about UHF.
There's so much to like about this film. It is such a great vehicle for Weird Al. It's so fantastic. Like they conceived this idea, him and his manager, of, hey, you know what? I parody songs all the time. How about I parody film and TV and stuff like that? And in a world where this wasn't done to death, because now it is done to death. Now
Sure.
you go to the movies every summer and there's 2 or 3 parody movies. Like this hasn't been done a lot up until this point. I'm not saying this is the first, but it hasn't been done overly. And Weird Al does a fantastic job of how it's written and directed, and the way that it's kind of loosely strung together. You still care about what's happening at the station. You still care about these characters,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's so fun to just take a little detour into, and they do it multiple ways, right? Because some of the parodies are in his imagination, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get the Money for Nothing Dire Straits song. I think it's the
Yeah.
only song of his that's in here that's just in his imagination.
Yep.
And then some of them are, of course, which is what's going on the station.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned like the characters throughout. Michael Richards does a fantastic job as Stanley Spadowski. You probably know him as Kramer from Seinfeld. Victoria Jackson is great as Weird Al's girlfriend. She's from Saturday Night Live around that time. Just really, really well done. My favorite bit, which you didn't mention, is when the woodshop teacher
Oh, he
is
cuts his thumb
he
off.
cuts his thumb off. It's so great.
Well, call me Mr. Butterfingers.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And Weird Al does a great job acting, which he doesn't get a lot of credit for here.
Mhm.
Because it's not just like him singing and stuff. Like he's a really funny comedian. Really well written. Absolutely love all the little bits and gags and stuff that they have throughout, and a huge ensemble cast. Because for the most part, what you're seeing is other people doing little bits and they all do such a great job. The guy who does Raoul's Wild Kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Badgers, we don't need
We
no
don't need no
stinking
stinking
badgers.
badgers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so great. I absolutely love it. I think um just really quick, I want to talk about how this movie was made because
Mm,
Weird Al kind of shopped it around and Orion Pictures was like, listen, if you can make it for like so little money, I think it was like a $5 million budget, and they
mm,
shot it in like Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just like they were like, if you can make it on a shoestring budget, you can do it. And then Orion showed it to a test audience.
mm.
The audience loved it, just thought it was the best thing ever.
Yep.
So they were like, okay, we're gonna put it up against the summer blockbuster season. And so they put it up against Ghostbusters 2 and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade
Yeah.
and all these other just absolute blockbusters, and it did not do well.
Oh, it
So
got killed by Last Crusade, which is
yeah.
why no one's ever seen it.
Yep.
If I tell people about this movie or show them clips, they'll know it from like they'll have seen like the some of the parody stuff on TV and they're like, "Oh, that's a Weird Al movie." I'm like, "Yeah, and it's really great." But
Yeah.
no one saw it because it came out the same day as like arguably the best Indiana Jones movie, not according to me, but according to you.
What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So like no one has seen this and it's gold.
It's
It's so awesome.
such a good movie.
Um,
Just for the people who complain, because there are people who are like, leave it alone. Like when we say fix it, it's guys, it's just a framing device to talk about the movie. Okay. We don't
yeah,
think that it's broken. We don't think UHF is bad. We love it genuinely.
yeah, yeah.
So
It could be
anyway,
better.
yeah.
Um,
But Nate,
but
what
yeah.
do you specifically love about UHF?
So I don't know if my sense of comedic timing as an individual was formed and then really jives with UHF, or if my sense of comedic timing as an individual was formed by the movie UHF
Huh.
and just informs my taste with everything else. But the jokes land so perfectly, and there is a mix of like other great funny movies, and I will put this up there with Airplane and the Blues Brothers as a great comedy. Um, like it is a fantastic mix of absurdist surrealist crap and like wordplay at places and honestly some pretty good slapstick as well. They're like, for example, I remember seeing the Raiders of the Lost Ark parody and uh laughing so hard the first time I saw it. I was like 8 years old. I hyperventilated and couldn't breathe because I thought it was so funny. And all of it and the Rambo parody, no dialogue in either one.
Uh-huh.
The visual gags along with the comedic timing are perfect. Like Weird Al's walking through the cave as Indiana Jones and stuff, and there's a bunch of like when the cave starts collapsing, there's like signs say "Beware of falling rocks" in the background. Or the great slapstick comedic bit is he has the bag of sand, he's about to take the idol and all of this kind of stuff, and he's weighing the bag of sand, and then instead of like carefully replacing it, he just throws the bag of sand over his shoulder and swipes the idol and takes it.
Yeah.
There's so many like very strange quotable lines from this movie that I say all the time. I have gone up to people at lunch and not actually having this delicacy that as I understand it is actually quite delicious.
Well, the Twinkie
But
dog?
yeah, well, look what I got here, Bob. A Twinkie wiener sandwich, your favorite. Like he's standing in his apartment with with a Twinkie wiener sandwich in his hand, and he
And
says,
he eats it
"What?"
too.
He eats it too, and he says, "What time is it?" And a guy's arm bursts through the wall with a wristwatch on because they live next to a karate studio, and he grabs that guy's arm and goes 7:30. It's just like there's almost nothing in this movie that's not a joke. Like a perfect example, and I swear I'll move on. Like the level of joke that would belong in a movie like Airplane or The Blues Brothers or Hot Fuzz or something like that. There's a scene, it's not even with Weird Al, it's with the Channel 6 network guy. There's
Uh-huh.
a guy, like one of his lackeys, he's wearing like a big cowboy hat with like a raccoon tail on it or whatever, and he has a mustache. Um, and there's a brief scene between the two of them. He's like, "Hey, check out U62, at the outskirts of town. Something weird's going on." He's like, "I will, and take that ridiculous thing off." And the guy with the weird hat looks into the camera, really sad, and rips his mustache off instead of taking off the hat. It's just absolutely lovely. And then like Weird Al himself, I mean, he's not a trained actor. Uh, I think that plays as a strength really well in this movie. I think it works stupidly well. He is just perfect for the role, and I know it's specifically written for him, but he's a fish out of water amongst other people who are actors. Like he's got Fran Drescher in a supporting cast. Like it's great stuff.
Yeah.
But he plays the perfect fish out of water amongst normal people,
Mhm.
and it fits just perfect. So yeah, that's what I love about this movie. There are fixable bits though. Like, sure, there's fixable stuff. Dan, what do you fix about UHF?
Here's my fix for UHF. Um, I need more Weird Al music in this movie. This is coming off of his fifth studio album where he did the big Michael Jackson parody. It just absolutely like blew up.
Yeah.
So I need more music. This is what people know him for. And I get that he's trying to pivot. I think he pivots really well in here. I think that he does a fantastic job. But the only song that we get throughout the movie's runtime is the Dire Straits thing. And again, beautiful parody music video of the actual Dire Straits music video, where it's all kind of computer generated and weird and everything, which is the Beverly Hillbillies thing. But I need more Weird Al music. So if I'm looking at the album UHF, which is the kind of a soundtrack of this film,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to do his just the UHF song. It's a great original song. It's fantastic. I want to have like a ton of weird, wacky clips because there was extra stuff that they shot that
Oh
they
yeah.
couldn't find a place to put in here. And I want to have like him singing it as if it's a commercial. Maybe he goes to Channel 6 and he's like, he somehow gets it on the air or something to get people to watch the UHF station, and it's him saying, we got it all on UHF," and it's a great song. Number one,
Yeah.
number two, it'd be such a great way to showcase those other little bits and have him singing and just put a little bit more Weird Al music in there because that's the only thing I'm missing. Genuinely,
Mm-hmm.
give me a little bit more Weird Al
The
music.
tough part, the tough thing to do though is like he's supposed to be a loser, so he can't be a talented musician. So any song that he does in the outside world, any song he does in the outside world can't be like great. And Weird Al is a very talented musician. So you either have to, make a George Newman, the character, the version of the song, or you have to make it in his imagination, which of course is what the Dire Straits thing is.
Right?
Um,
It's his dream.
yeah. An interesting
I
pick.
think another way to do it is you could show him kind of recording it in the studio very badly, and then he leaves it, and it's sitting with his like engineer, and his audio engineer somehow makes it amazing.
Mm.
Something like that to stay true to the character. But I just want
Yeah,
more singing
I
from Weird
like
Al in this.
I like the audio engineer making it amazing because like the station engineer turns out to be an alien at the end,
Yes,
and he
yes.
flies off to his own planet. So of course he could make a guy who sounds terrible like amazing. So like I like this. I like this. Um, it is similar to my fix.
Hmm. Oh,
Um,
what is yours?
so as a kid watching UHF, the Dire Straits thing was like my least favorite part of the whole movie. I
Yeah.
think it kills the pacing dead. Because it's like bang 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 bang, funny stuff before, bang 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 bang, funny stuff after. You got this Dire Straits thing in the middle. Um, it's not it's not okay. First of all, like the Beverly Hillbillies song, it's not Weird Al's like best stuff. If you're gonna put more into the film, or if you're gonna do music at all in the film, you got to put your best foot forward. So there are some ideas of music that you could put in if you take the Dire Straits thing out. Um, you can have him daydream a little bit more often, and you could play it in with show ideas for his station, right? Because they have all of these like underwater bingo for teens and all of this kind of stuff, like very strange shows. He could have a quiz show for people who are not good at quiz shows, called I Lost on Jeopardy. And there you get the song
Oh.
I Lost on Jeopardy, which is a wonderful Weird Al song. Um, he could have some kind of like, you know, meatball surgery show, or maybe like a mash parody where he sings like a surgeon would be funny, right? Or I don't know, just the entire like the entire concept of the UHF station being very very strange. Like it could play well with Stanley Spadowski's like Clubhouse being very silly. Like, you found the marble in the oatmeal, drink from the fire hose, which is a sentence in the movie. Dare to be stupid could be a great song to put in there. I
Uh-huh.
love Dare to be Stupid. So I don't know. I don't know why they did the Beverly Hillbillies song, because it's not great. And there are like four other ones you could do. Just sub them in. And like Weird Al already has a really strong catalog of music videos. So it's not that big of a deal to shoot one of these. Um,
So you're saying
so
like give him do like the greatest hits. Get like his four or five
yeah,
biggest things, find a way to make him and put him in there.
yeah. And Frank, well, I wouldn't do the Michael Jackson ones. I wouldn't do Eat It or what's the other Michael Jackson
Fat.
one? Fat, yeah. And I wouldn't do Yoda, because that would be hard to get the rights to. But everything else, like his greatest hits album came out in '88. This movie came
Right.
out in '89. If you were worried about it stacking up against a big summer release, put the best stuff in there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my fix. Get Beverly Hillbillies out. Put the heavy hitters in, or at least the heavy hitters from the '80s. I'm a
It's
Poodle Hat album man myself, but that's 2003, and this is prior to all of that. So
yeah. Well, the tough part is like Dire Straits, I'm sure they picked because so it was new for the film, and I'm sure that they picked it because Dire Straits was huge at the time.
oh yeah, yeah,
So like Money for Nothing was big, and the parody that they do of it with the video is perfect parody of the Dire Straits music video if you
yes.
know it.
And it's music video culture in the late '80s. Like, I get it, but this fix is very Nate centric.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I didn't like Dire Straits as a kid.
yeah.
I do now. Yeah, they're cool, but like I liked all of like the classic Weird Al stuff, and the stuff he would do later, of course. But yeah,
Yeah.
um, put the good stuff in there.
I
Put the
almost
good
went there
stuff.
myself,
Yeah.
genuinely, and then I thought, oh no, I want to do the UHF song because I love the UHF song. So yeah, I don't hate your fix at all. It makes a lot of sense to do the greatest hits. Like you want to get butts and seats, you want to sell tickets, do the greatest hits. It makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, I'm not altering the quality of the film. You
Mhm.
you you already know that UHF is great. The fix is literally just getting more people to talk about it in the future by putting
Right.
butts in seats. Like you're, you know, like you tell someone about UHF now, and they're like, I've never heard of that in my life. And I'm like, do you know who Weird Al is? And they're like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, are you a Weird Al fan? And they're like, yes, of course. And I'm like, you've never heard of this movie,
Yeah.
but it's like the best thing he ever did. Um, well, Poodle Hat, the album's still pretty good, but UHF is fantastic. So yeah, um, I'm going with that. That's my fix.
All right. What do you think, Internet? Do you think that you need UHF the song with a nice music video created by the alien audio engineer, or do you think that you want the absolute greatest hits of Weird Al put into this film somewhere? Or do you think that there's something else that we need to add or take out or whatever? Tell us about how much you love UHF. Please like it if you like it, comment if you want to say something, and subscribe because we're going to be doing Weird, the Al Yankovic story next, and you don't want to miss it. All right, that's it for us. So we hope that this finds you well. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a weird one, everybody.
Ooh, see ya.
Hmm.